Hello, everyone. Welcome to Conversations with Sekani, a podcast for people in their 20s who are trying to figure out life and not get lost along the way. Most people think conflict is something to win, to argue, to prove, and, to come out on top of. But what if the way we've been taught to handle conflict is actually making it worse? Today's guest is Dave Albrecta. After years inside the legal system, he began questioning whether the system designed to resolve conflict was actually escalating it. Dave, welcome to Conversations with Sekani. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks so much. It's a pleasure to be here.
All right, so um, I want us to dive a little bit right into your 20s, if I must say.
Yeah.
Even though it looks like you're in your 20s, but all right. So yeah, you went into law because you believed in justice. And what did that mean to you early on?
Yeah, that's a good question. And yeah, it's early on, my family has kind of a long history in the legal field.
Mm.
So my grandpa was a judge, my dad's a lawyer. So I really kind of grew up around this profession. And so for me at that age, justice would have meant what you think of traditionally as, something bad happens and you seek out a lawyer and the lawyer does what they do and they, vindicate you and win in trial and you get some sort of justice through that process. It was very kind of, um, a more general view of it. I didn't have the specifics. I spent time studying in college. I was a philosophy major, and so I took a handful of political philosophy classes and jurisprudence and stuff like that. So I probably at that age would have given some kind of philosophical answer about the virtue of justice and equality and
Mm.
fairness and what that means.
Wow. Okay, so
Yeah.
talking about like fairness, right, and justice. So was there a particular or a specific moment where you started to actually question the system you were part of?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
And as it relates to your show and your listeners, I feel
Mm.
like I'm back in my 20s. I'm about to turn 40 in a couple weeks. But
Wow.
I feel like I'm right back where I was when I was 20. So a couple of years ago in 2023, I had this moment over the summer where a whole bunch of things kind of converged. They'd been building for some time. At that point I'd been practicing for about 8 or 9 years,
Mm.
and just for background, I was doing mostly employment litigation, so I was suing companies on behalf of employees who felt they had been terminated illegally.
Mm.
And in the U.S., that the primary source of those claims are discrimination claims.
Mm.
So it was a lot of that type of work. And so I felt good about the work I was doing. I won't say I necessarily enjoyed it, but I felt I could sleep at night. I was doing work that contributed and helped people, and I was trying to, change the way that companies behave. And but over that course of time, I began to really see this uh, breakdown between the concept that clients have for what justice is and the
Mm.
concept for justice within the legal system, at least the American legal system, and how lawyers view that. And the difference was, clients came into me seeking um, they primarily people would usually say, I want to make sure this never happens to someone else. I
Mm.
want to make sure this doesn't happen again. Um, a lot of times, even if they couldn't really put words to it, they just wanted to be seen and acknowledged. They wanted the company to acknowledge that they had done a bad thing and that they had hurt this person and disrupted their whole life. I'm dealing with people who lost a job, and sometimes they'd have these jobs for 30, 40 years and get fired
Mm.
for a bad reason. And so it's a really traumatic thing to lose a
Mm.
career like that. And even if you get fired after a couple of years. If you get fired for a bad reason, it's traumatic, right? If you get fired because you're not doing your job and you're not showing up, that's not as traumatic. Um, but anyways, I was just noticing this disconnect between what people were seeking and what they wanted and what the system could provide, which really is just money.
Hmm.
At the end of the day, people get a check and there's a payment, kind of in exchange for the bad thing that was done. But when you get that money, a lot of times it comes with an agreement that also the company will pay the person and at the same time say, uh, we're not admitting we did anything wrong. And
Hmm.
that's hard. That was hard for me to watch people go through that and accept that. And so I really there some cracks started forming for me in how we do things. Um, and at the same time, had just become a new father, so I had two kids at home who were, let's see, at that time they were probably like 2 and 4, 2 and 5, somewhere in there. Um, and I was, being a dad and trying to, they're two boys, and I was trying to help them navigate a lot of conflict with each other. And in those moments, we would talk a lot about apologies and recognition and acknowledgement and seeing each other and having conversation. And then I would go to work and do the complete opposite as a lawyer.
Wow.
So like, so with my, I have these expectations for my kids at a very young age for how they're going to handle conflict. And then I would go into work and help adults do the exact opposite, which is
Hmm.
we don't talk to the other side. There's no communication. We escalate. We ramp things up. It's the complete opposite of how I wanted my kids to be in the world. And so those things and a couple other things, COVID had just happened, and I was just kind of facing some big question marks about my involvement in the bigger picture of human conflict.
Wow. Okay. So, now I'm seeing it from your perspective, actually. I never saw it from this perspective. We have the mindset that the legal system helps resolve conflict, right?
Hmm.
That's the mindset that has been embedded in a whole lot of us, right? So
Right.
that's why once there's any little conflict, we quickly take it to the court so we could
Yeah.
just try to resolve it. But then again, like you said, right, it actually escalates it. I mean, it just
Yeah.
causes more, should I say, inbuilt hate, right, for
Yeah.
whoever is involved in the case. Because the fact that you don't get to talk to the other person, try to hear their point of view, try to understand them, right? They
Yeah.
just put this
Exactly.
barrier, like we don't
Yeah.
want you guys to talk to each other. They try to escalate. Oh no. Now I'm seeing it from your perspective, right? So
Yeah.
I'm curious to ask. So do you think we've been, conditioned to see conflict as something adversarial by default?
Yes, I do think that. I think that we've been trained based on these legal systems that have been created um, over the years and spread around the world that we believe that all conflict means that it has to be adversary and that there's
Mm,
this competition involved with it and there's a winner and a loser, right?
mm,
And I want to be really clear, like the legal system's still very important.
mm.
I don't think that
It
it,
is.
I think it still serves an extremely important role.
Mm,
I'm really proud of some of the cases that I got to work on.
mm,
We changed the law. We did some good work, and that still happens. And there
mm,
are cases that need to go through that system and go to trial and go through the courts.
mm,
And it's most important, I think, to help with power imbalance.
mm,
And without a legal system, the power imbalance, especially in my area of employment, where you've got big, powerful companies and single individuals, that power imbalance is enormous. And
mm,
the court system helps level the playing field. However, um, there is this, you're right to call it conditioning to
mm,
believe that we all need this kind of help or we need some system in order to put conflict into and get a answer out of, right? And then
Mm.
we're told who's right and who's wrong, who wins and who loses.
Mhm.
And there's this whole different way to see and view conflict. And what I'm where I've kind of landed now is that I think there needs to be a lot more of that up front,
Mm.
rather than just running straight into the legal system. That there's a lot of good tools and research and kind of science-backed ways that we can approach conflict,
Mm.
um, and grow and learn from it and become better people. And if that doesn't work, that's fine, and you go to court, right? Um, but there needs to be at least some more attempts at teaching people how to engage in healthy conflict and helping them
Yeah.
do that.
Okay, so it's about finding balance actually, because yes,
Yeah.
like you said, the the legal system, it's not like it has not done harm, right? But we just need to find
Yeah.
balance between cases like this. So yes, talking about rethinking conflicts. So you shifted into mediation, right, and
Mm.
coaching. That's like a perfect way to for conflict resolution. So what
Mm.
changed in how you approached conflict?
Yeah, well, what happened was that when I kind of hit this crisis point in 2023 where I was like, I just can't keep doing this work anymore. It was a very sudden, it happened very suddenly. Like I said, even though these things have been building over the years, it really happened pretty quickly. And, so I began, like I said, kind of back in my 20s, like, okay, what do I want to be when I grow up? And looking around at my options. And the first best option was to do mediation training. And, I had done hundreds of mediations as a lawyer,
Mm,
and but had not been trained to be a mediator. And so I started doing that in 2024. I did three different mediation trainings, and they were all pretty different approaches. But
mm,
to give you and your viewers kind of a like sense of what I was experiencing in that moment, when lawyers talk about mediation, at least in the area that I practiced, which was federal court employment law, when you go to
mm,
mediation, the parties go in different rooms with their lawyers, and the mediator goes back and forth between the rooms, and you never see the other side.
mm,
And the mediator delivers messages, and that's how you negotiate. And that's just standard practice. That's just how it's
mm,
done. And when I started getting trained in mediation, the first thing they did was like, all right, they're training us in this method of having both parties in the room together.
mm,
And I I couldn't believe it when in that moment. I was like, no, you can't do that. My brain just completely rejected that model and was like, you can't do that. This is insane. These people don't know what they're talking about. I had every reaction you could imagine. And but I made it through that training. I didn't quit, and I began to accept it, and then began to see the value of it.
mm,
And as soon as I saw that, it just kind of cracked open my world, and I'm like, oh my God,
mm,
there's this whole other way to be doing this that
mm.
lawyers don't know about. We're not we're
Exactly.
not we're not trained in it. No one tells us about this stuff. It's not part
Mm,
of school, or at least it wasn't when I was in school. Um, and so then I did two more that were even kind of further down that path. I did one that was at a Buddhist monastery in a yurt in Northern California, a bunch of lawyers sitting around in this setting. It was incredible. And it's all about helping people have conversations with each other. And you said the word earlier and nailed it, which is helping people reach understanding.
mm,
Um,
mm,
and what I've learned is that you can't resolve conflict until people understand the other side and
mm,
have a really solid grasp of where the other party's coming from. And once you get to that understanding, then you can start talking about how do we resolve it. But until you
mm.
get there, what happens is both parties are just arguing about their positions, and no one's going to change each other's mind, which is what the legal system looks like.
Exactly. All right. Well, okay. So yes, I
Yeah,
must say thank you for that one, Dave, because now I
yeah,
understand better. And
yeah, yeah.
you know, uh, now we've touched on everything about, conflict and the system, right? But we need to understand. So what does a healthier approach to conflict actually look like?
Yeah, well, I think what I said earlier is that kind of
Yeah.
balance. I think that
Yeah.
I think a number of things. One, I think that we could do a better job training lawyers to let them
Mm.
know that these tools are out there. Um, and uh, so that's number one. Number two is giving people options, because you said this earlier too, which is right. Most people they get into a conflict that they can't handle, and they just, you run to a lawyer,
Mm.
and that's fine. That's our system. But I'm really interested in helping people understand that there's different ways to do this,
Mm.
and that I believe some effort should be made up front before, and lawyers can be involved then too, but before it gets formal, um, where people can sit down with one another face to face, just the same as I would do with my 4 and 7-year-old now,
Mm.
and let them talk and
Mm.
share how they're feeling and why they are feeling the way they're feeling, and begin to develop that understanding, and then see if you can reach resolution once you get there. And what I've
Mm.
found is there's this huge, uh, enormous group of people out there trained in this stuff,
Mm.
and they're far less expensive than lawyers. Um, and
Mm.
for a tenth of the cost of a retainer to hire a lawyer, you can go hire a really good facilitative mediator who can
Mm.
help you have that conversation and help it be productive. Um, so, that's where I just think that talking really is the short answer to your question. I want people to talk more with each other. We're in this age of social media and electronic communication that has, really eroded our ability to sit down and have conversations with each other, and conflict is just a perfect way to start practicing that, and having more conversations.
Well, basically conversation. I would say communication, right? It's
Yeah,
very
exactly.
important to communicate, right? So
Yep.
and also there was a very valid point you brought up, which was lawyers taking, these classes. I think it's going to actually help, right? Not just for the
Mm.
clients, but also for the lawyer to help them understand some certain things. Right. So yes.
Yeah.
And talking about like the human side of conflicts.
Mm.
So, you talk about lawyers becoming healers of human conflicts, right? So what
Hmm.
does that actually really mean?
Yeah, great question. And I'm trying to figure that out for myself. So I've recently launched my own podcast called Lawyers as Healers, and
Hmm.
that concept is based on a quote from a Supreme Court justice named Warren
Hmm.
Burger. And he said in I think it was the 70s and 80s, he had a few different comments that were similar to this, but he said it's the obligation of our profession is to serve as healers of human conflict.
Hmm.
And I found that quote when I was kind of going through my moment of what am I going to do next, and it just kind of blew me away to hear a Supreme Court justice say that about lawyers and
Hmm.
refer to lawyers as healers.
Hmm.
Um, and so it really sparked my interest in that. And I think, so far, my podcast is very fresh, so there's a lot more exploration to do. But I really believe that it means paying more attention to, like you said, that human element of conflict. Lawyers, the way that we're trained is to, you know, we get a set of facts. We're kind of like computers that you put in a set of facts, you put in the law, and then we spit out an analysis and a conclusion based on the facts and the law.
Hmm.
And that's the only thing we're trained to consider. But there's this enormous other element of who are these people and what
Hmm.
are their experiences and what's the context, and do these people want to litigate? Do they want to go through a 3-year lawsuit and have to do all this traumatic stuff in the process? And is that healthy for them? Um, and is there a way that we can help people? What lawyers do is we quote resolve the conflict on its face, right? We
Mm.
address the very surface level issues. Okay, you lost your job, you lost a source of income. How much is that worth? And if everything lines up, that's the amount that you're paid. Okay, you're made whole again. You can move on with your life. But that doesn't address anything underneath what happened. Um,
Mm.
so the employer doesn't get to learn how it screwed up and how it could
Mm.
have done better. And the employee doesn't get to learn how they screwed up and how they could do better. And
Mm.
there's this enormous amount of opportunity for people to learn and improve and heal whatever happened, whatever the falling out was.
Mm.
And again, I think that is through understanding and empathy. And the legal system does not consider any of that at all. Maybe some individual lawyers might, but it's not a part of our training. So to me, healing human conflict means not just resolving the topical issues, but going underneath that and saying, all right, how can we actually help people get better out of this,
Mm.
horrible set of facts?
All right. Well, okay. So yes, thank you so much, Dave, for that
Mm,
one. And I have this one question for you, right? So,
yeah.
what is one mindset shift that, can immediately change how someone handles conflict?
Mm, yeah. I think the one of the biggest drivers of conflict is assumptions.
Mm.
And I believe that we all do it. When you're in conflict with somebody, your brain immediately goes into kind of overdrive about all these things that haven't happened, right?
Mm.
Um, what is the other person thinking? Why'd the other person do what they did? How are they going to respond if I confront them about it?
Mm.
We make up all this meaning around what happened.
Mm.
And those assumptions really escalate things quickly and
Mm.
oftentimes aren't true.
Mm.
And they not only assumptions not only escalate the conflict, but they also really can get in the way of resolving it because people come into things thinking, oh, this is, they just make up all these stories about why
Mm.
the thing happened. So to me, one of the biggest mindset shifts people can make is to really ask yourself when you're in a conflict, even if it's a minor one with your
Mm.
partner or kids or something. Um, when you hear that voice in your head telling you things, really ask if it's true.
Mm.
Is that thing I'm thinking, is that truth? Do I
Is it
do I
true?
actually, yeah, do I actually know that to be a fact or am I making some
Mm.
assumptions here? And if you're making assumptions, put it away, shift to something else.
Mm.
Let that thought go. And then the follow-up shift from that is to be curious and be curious about what the other person is experiencing, because that is what will unlock the way forward and how to actually get to resolution.
Mm. Oh, okay. So that's an interesting mind shift actually, because the human brain, I don't know, it tends to trick some people sometimes, right? They start
Yeah,
making
absolutely.
assumptions. Yeah, they start making a whole lot of assumptions, and because of that assumption, they now start to act based on what they think, which
Yes,
sometimes isn't the real. It's not fact, right? It's not true. So it's important to take away assumptions and just try to, understand things from the other person's point of view. Right. So
100%. Yep, that's exactly right.
all right. So my final question for you today, although I'm not sure something might come up, but
Yeah,
you
yeah,
the purpose of my podcast, right, is for young adults who are trying
yeah,
to gain clarity when it comes to life. So
yeah.
I just need you to talk to someone out there, let's say for someone in their 20s navigating relationships, work, and life, right? What is one thing they need to understand especially about conflicts that would literally change everything for them?
Yeah. Well, I'll answer that question from um, uh, more of so I've been doing this coach training as well, and kind of
Mm,
molding that into conflict resolution and my work as a lawyer, and so I think this answer speaks to both things, both
mm,
a way to approach conflict and a way to approach life in your 20s and what's next and all of the things swirling around for people at that age. And the answer is be very clear about um, who you want to be.
mm,
And I'm going to give some explanation about that because Um, what I mean by that is the starting point, in my view, should be for anyone venturing into something new. The question is, how do I want to show up? Who do I want to be in the world?
mm,
And what are the qualities that I want to demonstrate as a human being?
mm,
And so when I say, what do you want to be? I don't mean what do you want to do? I don't mean
mm,
what job do you want to have? I mean, who are you at your core?
mm,
Um, and when you're able to tap into that, and there's a lot of ways to do it,
mm,
these days there's so much out there, so many resources. Um, Coaches do free webinars all the time. I'm actually doing one in a couple weeks called a Life Blueprint
mm,
that focuses on this exact question. And when you're able to tap into what are my core values, is it
mm,
compassion or empathy or uh, there's a long list of possibilities. And you have that list of your core values, whether you're going into conflict or in a difficult conversation or trying to decide what job to take or what training to do or what to do next.
mm,
You can tap into that place that's inside of you all the time, those qualities of being, and you'll get some really clear answers, you know.
mm,
Um, and ultimately, then it doesn't really matter what you're doing. It matters how you're being. And so when you show up to conflict and you're aligned with those values, you're going to get a really different outcome than going in and just thinking about, what do I want to get out of this, right?
mm. Yeah.
And I believe that's the case for anything in life. You can apply it to conflict just as easily as you can apply it to a job search. Um, and I think one of the things I ran into over my career, I was convinced and knew I wanted to be a lawyer, and I did that. But one of the things I've realized now is that the way I was being a lawyer didn't align with my values and who I want to be
Mm,
in the world and how I want to contribute. And that's a big part of what led me to walk away from that type of practice.
mm,
And had I done that kind of work earlier, um, who knows? I can't say what would have been different, but I think things would be different for me. If I had tapped into that kind of work, that inner work of really knowing who I want to be and how I want to show up, and how I want to contribute. That really changes things and can really bring some ease and almost some joy to anything you're doing, even if it is a
mm.
difficult conflict.
Oh, wow. Okay. Thank you so much, Lee. Right. This has been amazing, I must say. And I've actually learned so much already, especially when it comes to, some certain approach and conflict and life generally. I love
Yeah,
conversations like this because they just help young people, help them better navigate life in a way that, from a place of clarity, right? So that's why I love
yeah,
conversations like this. And I'm just going to say this, and this will be to my listeners, right? So conflict isn't actually going anywhere, but the way we approach it can either
yes,
break things down or build something better. So we just have to find a better way to approach conflict. So yes, I just
Yeah,
needed to say that.
I love that. It's not, you're exactly right. There's no way to avoid it. It's out there and you're gonna run into it. It's part of being human. It's a very natural, normal experience. And but I think there are some really incredible ways we can all shift the way we approach
Mm,
it, so that we don't have to be scared of it. Or a lot of us do try to avoid it, even when it does enter our lives. And there are some real ways that you can get a lot of, learning how to address conflict in a healthy way will
mm,
make you It'll make you a better leader. It will make you a better business person. It will make you a better spouse. It'll make you a better parent. I mean, it's the benefits of it are kind of endless. And it just takes some, not too much, just a little bit of training or just some openness to approach it differently than how we've all been trained to approach it.
all right. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
Yeah.
thank you so much, Dave. And this brings me to the final segment of my podcast. It's called the rapid fire segment.
Yeah. All
Okay,
right.
so starting now, right? Would you prefer right or understanding?
Say that one more time. Sorry.
Okay, would you prefer right or understanding?
Mm, understanding every time.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so winning or resolution?
Resolution.
Hmm. So what is one mistake people make in conflict?
I've said it already. Assumptions.
Yeah, assumptions, exactly. All right, and what is one better habit for communication?
Mm, active listening.
Active listening. All right, and finally, what is the biggest myth about conflict?
Ooh, that's a good one. The biggest myth about conflict is that it's bad or wrong.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. All right. Well, it isn't. It's not wrong.
That's
It's
right.
part of human's nature. Right. So,
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
all right. So, yes, thank you so much, Dave. And where can listeners get to, connect with you and learn more about you?
Yeah, I've got two websites right now. One is davealbrechta.com, which is my coaching website, and then I've got my my legal website, which is Aspen Grove, ASPENGROVE law.com. And then I've got a podcast called Lawyers as Healers.
Lawyers as healers. I like that one.
Thanks. Yeah,
All
it's been
right.
fun.
Okay. So, yes. And thank you. And to my listeners, actually, thanks for tuning in to Conversations with Sekani. If this episode sparked something in you, just as it did in me, make sure to share to someone who you think might need this and also subscribe so you don't miss out on new episodes. Thank you so much, Dave. Do have a wonderful day.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. It's been a really, really fun conversation.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Take care.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye.